and welcome to Your Vote Counts, a public service program bringing local candidate interviews to you for the primary 2020 election. This is produced by Capital Community Television via remote technology in collaboration with community groups of American Association of University Women, League of Women Voters of Marion and Polk Counties, neighborhood associations, and Salem City Club. For the nonpartisan contested races selected, all candidates were invited and all accepted. Candidates did not receive the questions ahead of time, which were developed by the sponsoring groups. The candidate was asked to prepare a 3-minute opening statement telling us about themselves, their qualifications, and their vision for the city if elected. I am Bernadine Anderson from the League of Women Voters of Marion and Polk County, and I would like to now introduce Vanessa Nordyke, who is running for Salem Council position number 7. She will now share her opening statement.
Hi, good day everyone. My name is Vanessa Nordyke and I have deep roots in Salem. I was born and raised here in South Salem, where I now live in Ward 7. And growing up, my folks taught me the importance of giving back to my community. And starting at age 13, I started doing just that. My first volunteer gig was at the Salem Art Fair, when kids were milling about and they were waiting their turn to have their faces painted. And there was a mile-long line for it. And so, having taken some art classes, I saw some extra art supplies and an empty seat at the table. And so I quickly grabbed those extra supplies and I sat down and motioned over to the next kid. And that has been my approach to giving back ever since. If you see a need and you have the means to help, just get started. Roll up your sleeves and pitch in. Over the years, I've served on no less than 4 city boards and committees: Police Review Board, Budget Committee, the Social Services Advisory Board, and the Salem Youth Advisory Commission, all of which have informed my perspective and given me more leadership experience for this role. I've also served on 2 county-wide positions: the Marion County Sheriff's Citizens Advisory Committee, which is a public safety body, and I also helped co-found the Marion County Veterans Treatment Court to help our military veterans navigate the justice system. And I've done all of these things while balancing a very busy day job at the Oregon Department of Justice, where I currently serve as a Senior Assistant Attorney General. I'm proud of my work at the Oregon Department of Justice, but I'm especially proud of my work keeping child molesters behind bars. My leadership and service to the legal community led me to become the youngest ever elected Oregon State Bar President in the year 2018, which enabled me to travel all over the state to meet rural Oregonians, small business owners, and many other types of folks that help make up our great state. I learned how to work across the aisle, across political spectrums, and I also learned how to work with a multi-million-dollar budget. I also became a mental health advocate because I know that a lot of adults are struggling with mental health issues. My decades of community service are what led me to Salem City Council. And I can tell you my approach to leadership at City Council is this: you listen, you collaborate, and then you get results. Only by working together, by listening to stakeholders, and by working with everyone, that's how you get buy-in from our community. I can tell you that my vision for the city is driven by this listening and collaborating and getting results. We've had a major breakthrough on homelessness. Now our homeless are off of our streets and in designated camping areas, safer for them and better for our business community. I look forward to working more on these issues if elected to Salem City Council. Thank you.
Thank you for that background information. And we'd now like to give you an opportunity to address some of the questions and the topics that are of concern to our community. We probably have more questions than we can answer in our time allowed, but we look forward to getting as much information as you can share with us. Our first question today is: many residents don't understand the role councilpersons play in our lives. So why should residents and voters be interested in this race?
Thank you so much. What a great question. So residents should be interested in this race because the way that City Council makes decisions and the decisions that we make impact multiple facets of our lives. Do you want to have safe playgrounds and community parks? Do you like having bicycling paths? Do you like having trails in your neighborhoods? I know that in South Salem, for example, the Croissant Creek Trail is a beloved, treasured trail for the last several decades. And so as your city councilor, I am very invested in providing these opportunities, these alternatives to just driving single cars, to being able to enjoy our communities for any working family, for any child. These are the sorts of things that matter. The city has miles and miles of parks, sidewalks, and paths. Where those parks go, how they are maintained, the safety of our streets, these are all determined in large part by Salem City Council. There are a variety of other things that City Council does too, public safety being a top priority. Our first responders from the city of Salem, our fire department and our police department, are on the front lines of our homelessness crisis. These individuals work hand in glove with our community partners and with vulnerable members of our community who are without shelter. Ensuring that we have adequate funding for our public safety first responders means that everyone in our community is safe and taken care of. These are just some of the ways in which our city and our city council makes decisions that impact you.
You mentioned in your introduction some issues about the homeless situation. Could you expand on that and tell us a little more about the direction for their care, consideration of business concerns and public safety?
Absolutely. So I would be happy to talk about that. So lately, we've had a breakthrough in our homelessness crisis in two different ways. One, the city took emergency action in response to COVID-19. And so we had an emergency meeting where we issued a citywide state of emergency declaration that gave folks requirements and imposed certain rules about when and where you can use our city streets. And that included working with our homeless, working with our community partner Arches, to move our homeless who were sitting and lying on the streets to the designated campgrounds that I'd mentioned. These campgrounds are safer and cleaner and healthier for our unsheltered than sitting or lying on the street without access to a bathroom. And at the same time, while we are also addressing this vulnerable population during the COVID-19 crisis, this is also beneficial for our downtown business community. With clean and healthy streets for everybody, everybody is welcome to use our city streets to shop downtown, to dine downtown, to live downtown. A second thing that we did, as I mentioned, is that we declared a sit light ordinance across the city. Now, to be clear, this sit light ordinance was already in the works when COVID-19 hit our community. And we were already in the process of following the public meetings rules for initiating a sit light ordinance. And under this ordinance, this also provides a balance between our homeless and our business community. You know, a lot of folks seem to believe that you can either be a proponent of our unsheltered or a proponent of business, but it is possible when you listen and you collaborate to find a balancing between the two. And under this sit light ordinance, the city can tell folks that they cannot sit or lie in the streets, but only provided that the city has enough shelter space at places like UGM and Arches and our many other community partners. I can tell you that homelessness is a huge priority for our city and to our residents. So when I joined Salem City Council in late October, the first thing I did was sit down with 7 different homeless shelter providers, folks like UGM, Arches, the Center for Hope and Safety, Family Promise, and many others. I sat down with business owners. I talked with our chief of police. I talked with our chief of the fire department. And all this information has informed my perspective and helped us lead to this place that we are now, which is with folks off the streets. And if elected to a full term to City Council, my goal will be that we never go back to a situation where we had folks sitting or lying on the street. I cannot stress enough how unhealthy it is for someone to be on the streets without access to services, treatment, or shelter. And so I want to continue doing the work that I have started to build the momentum and consistently improve both our business environment and our environment for folks without shelter.
Now, going in a little bit different direction, many of our neighborhood associations, as well as some of the community groups, were very concerned about knowing what should the city do to combat climate change, and do we need a Salem Climate Action Plan?
Yes, we do need a climate action plan. Now, I can tell you, and thank you for bringing up neighborhood association meetings. As your city councilor, I've attended as many neighborhood association meetings as I can for 4 different neighborhood associations in the area. I think it is so important as your city councilor to listen. And only by meeting with neighbors and attending neighborhood association meetings and doing the outreach that is frankly expected of a good elected official can you learn what the community wants and needs. And I can tell you that I've heard time and time again the importance of green space, the importance of walkable, bikeable paths, and the importance of our city joining the ranks of all the other major cities in the state in having a climate action plan. From Portland to Milwaukee, Gresham, Eugene, there are many other cities throughout the state of Oregon that have had a climate action plan. And even though Salem will not be first, there is some benefit to going next to last when it comes to being one of the remaining major cities. And that is that we can look at lessons learned from other cities. We can look at what are some simple changes that we can make that won't break the bank, but will produce a significant improvement in our greenhouse gas emissions. So I do believe that we need a climate action plan. And I have been working with our city staff, and I've been working with members of the community to understand how we can do that and get the most bang for our buck in terms of making our city healthier.
This question is also related to livability. One of the elements discussed in the updating of the Salem Comprehensive Plan is the term complete neighborhoods. Can you explain or describe that for us?
Sure. So I will tell you what a complete neighborhood means to me. And a complete neighborhood means to me that everyone in that community feels welcome and included in decisions that impact that community. It means that when it comes to deciding where a park should be placed, or where a multifamily dwelling should be placed, where an apartment complex should go up, that to me means that we take into consideration the viewpoints of everyone in the community. So that's what a complete neighborhood means to me.
Assuming that there may be cuts in revenue and certainly an increase in needs, tell us your financial priorities for the city budget.
Sure. Well, I can tell you that public safety is a top priority. In order for us to respond to COVID-19, we must fund our first responders. These folks are on the front lines of an unprecedented crisis in our city. That includes members of our paramedics and EMTs, our firefighters, our police officers, but also some of the folks we don't often hear about. Some of our unsung heroes include our code compliance officers. And those are the folks who see a lot of things in the community that need to be addressed too. But, you know, our top priority has to be the health and safety of our community. And between responding to the coronavirus pandemic and responding to our city's homelessness crisis, we have to ensure that public safety is adequately funded. Second, our city staff serve an incredibly important function. I mean, our non-public safety city staff. You know, if you want to know why our street lights work every night, why your water is clean and healthy to drink, these are the kind of the core functions of city government and city services that a lot of folks don't realize necessarily, but are really critical just to ensuring basic needs for our community. These are the folks who keep our parks clean. These are the folks that work on sewer repairs. These are the folks who are really essential to our city. So retaining these jobs of our public servants is a top priority for me.
Now let's consider traffic. So what are your ideas about the congestion, and how does that interact or relate to the defeat of the Salem River crossing proposal? What are your ideas and feelings about that?
So one of the things that I think COVID-19 has introduced us to in a very novel way is this concept of what you and I are doing right now, which is interacting remotely. When I joined City Council recently in late October of last year, I brought up the prospect of increasing telecommuting and flex time opportunities for people. Because as people increasingly learn how they can work from home, and many people can work from home, that is a great way to reduce congestion and to reduce the cost for each household. Every time you drive to work, you're putting gas in your car. Every time you go to work, you might be paying for a parking permit. You might be paying for other expenses that require you to be outside of your home. So now that COVID-19 has essentially forced many of us to find new ways to carry out our duties of our workplace, now is the perfect time for us to recognize telecommuting options that will reduce commute times, will reduce congestion, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions at the same time. So those are just some of the things that we can look at. Our city should and continue to analyze how we can improve traffic congestion in a variety of ways. And in terms of long-term development, as our city continues to grow, I think we need to sit down as an entire region and plan for a regional bridge. Remember, our entire region would use a bridge, and anyone who uses a bridge should help pay for a bridge. I'm sure there are plenty of folks who don't live in Salem city limits who would like to use a bridge. And I believe that if you want to use our bridge, then you need to help pay for it and get some skin in the game. And that's a discussion that our entire region should have so that we can improve our long-term congestion outlook.
Thank you, Ms. Nordyke, for our interview today and for sharing all these thoughts with us.
It is my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks to Capital Community TV for the extensive efforts made to make this program happen. Thanks to our community organizations that contributed moderators and questions. And thank you to you, the public, for watching in order to become an informed voter. If you've recently moved or have any other changes and need to register to vote, you have until April 28th to do so. Ballots will be mailed out beginning April 29th and should arrive by May 5th. And this year, that will be free for a mail-in. Remember to vote because your vote counts.